All right, Chair, we are officially recording and it is 1:30. Feel free to start when you're ready.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is the Public Works Subcommittee meeting for the month of June. And Michael, are there any participants in virtual world or any members of the audience out there?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. At this point in time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to run the agenda to Council Member Wheeler. If you'd like, please get on.
Thank you, Chair. Let's just do a quick roll call right now. I see the people that we have here are listed down, but we've got some folks from the community. Please introduce yourself.
Brad DePorto from the Cloverdale Football Club. Rob Kozlowski, I'm here in Cloverdale.
All righty, thank you. And we'll move into public comments. You guys have public comments.
Vice Chair, if I can just real quickly, just let the record reflect that all members of the subcommittee are present, including our Assistant City Manager, Kevin Thompson, Public Works Director, Derek Montani, Engineering Tech, Bobby Spagnola, and we are expecting, let's take a look. Our is bringing us via Zoom, and we have her available as well. Thank you, Vice Chair. She is.
Hi, Vanessa. Okay, now we'll move into public comments. And I'd like to read this. So any person wishing to speak to the council subcommittee on any item not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Members of the public have the right to speak on any item on the agenda at the time the item comes up for consideration pursuant to the Brown Act. The subcommittee is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. 3 minutes are typically allotted to each speaker. So public comments.
I'm gonna wait till we get down to the corner of football. The only comment I have is I'm glad to see the update on the wells that have been done, and I'd be interested in future discussions or information coming from, say, the newsletter on progress in the Cherry Creek Reservoir, the water main replacement, the river reservoir, and things like the second chlorine contact replacement, because that was discussed when there was work on decreasing the rates back when, and there's been awfully quiet on that. Instead of that, we've done looks like smart meters are coming. There's a whole bunch of other things that weren't in the original request when voters were challenging the rate increase and then finally agreed to it. So thank you.
I believe we have you coming up here, Rob, and you just did it, but we have you in communications. So
Yeah, that's in
okay.
the record.
All right, we're gonna wait on Mr. Horrell until we get done with pickleball communications here. First communications we have is Mr. Kozlowski. So do we have any response on that, Adriel?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Just let the record reflect that we received a communication on June 23rd from Mr. Rob Kozlowski, resident. They sent the email to our city clerk with a copy to our assistant city manager, Kevin Thompson, in reference to today's subcommittee. It notes that I think for the effort towards the recent removal of the water surcharge, and there are 5 questions listed, of which one is struck, and there's a request for 4 of the 5 questions to be answered. I can, if you so like, I can respond to those questions. I want to note that the communication is on the agenda. A deep conversation on these matters. They're not agendized, so we should refrain from doing a deep dive, though they may be covered under one of these agenda items if appropriate. But I can give you just a summary response if you like. Yes. Okay. The first question is, will double-digit rate increases for water and sewer be added again in the summer of 2023? And if so, by how much? And then this is not a question, this is a statement from Mr. Rob Kozlowski. They should not be increased anywhere close to the maximum due to current water fee collection trends. And so the statement noted, there is a water rate increase that will take effect starting July 1 pursuant to the adopted rate study. The rate study reflected a 12% increase in water rates for fiscal year 23-24, and I think it's a 11% increase in sewer rates. Excuse me, it's a different sewer rate, but combined it ends up being you combine a total of 11% increase since most folks receive a combined bill. So the rates will likely be reflected on the billing that would occur. So just by reference, the meter reads for July are done at the end of July, early August. The bills go out at the end of August and are due usually September 1st. So the billing for July would be the rate increases would be reflected in bills that would be received by customers in approximately September.
So you're doing the maximum again, as opposed to evaluating it, city council, maybe doing a 2% or 5%.
So,
Because the idea was that was the maximum authorized increase for 5 years. And it seems like this will be the second year in a row where you're doing the maximum.
It is the maximum rate increase as provided for in the adopted rate study. That's correct.
And I think part of that, Ron, and I know you know this, is not part of it, the majority is the infrastructure replacement. And we're playing catch up, even with the 11%, even with the grants that we got, that I think it was 3 million. And yeah, we decided to go with smart meters because it was the most cost efficient method. But it's the infrastructure, it's killing us. That chlorine tank, you know, it's at least several hundred thousand or more.
Right, well, we were waiting to get updates on those other major projects.
Yeah.
The first updates that came out were about water meters, maybe a solar plant, a wastewater treatment plant. Not these other ones that I had earlier. So a lot of the folks that were concerned when I think about half the rate or half the people with meters in town said they wanted to understand the rate increase a couple of years ago, which is why it was, I think, delayed for 6 months because people said no at first and yes. Was what are the infrastructure projects that these dollars are going to?
David, is there a infrastructure sheet on the website where people can go and get that information? Capital improvement project?
Yeah, well, I want to point to 3 sources of information really that I think are of value here. The list of projects that was identified as being funded by the rate increases or as part of the analysis to support the rate increases is on the website. It's a financial study that was done by our water rate consultant, Mark Hildebrand. We also independently have the capital improvement, 5-year capital improvement program. And then last but not least, every month on the Finance, Admin, and Police Subcommittee, unless the meeting is canceled, there is a copy of the most recent analysis or really data of water rate revenue, and that includes the rate revenue as well as the surcharge revenue. And there's a specific discussion item on the Finance, Admin, and Police regarding the water rate revenue that is discussed by that subcommittee. And it's a very detailed worksheet. Our goal is to be very transparent with the revenue in terms of what's collected on a monthly basis. And it's available for community review. And I don't know if you...
I think what the request has been, or maybe what's missing, if I can say it that way, is these are the projects that were identified by the water and sewer department. And there was a whole number of them. So this is still in committee, still under discussion. Studies are done, construction starting such and such a date. Like you don't want to send the average person, I would say, myself included, to see the Hildebrand study, which is probably now on a date based on what's been happening. there's a whole bunch of places you gotta go. Is there one place that says, here's the 5 water improvement projects, here's the 5 wastewater treatment plant kind of projects, and here's the status, because that's what caused the angst, what was it now, 3 years ago? When that all-
So are you looking for something like, okay, here's a sheet and then it comes up and like you mentioned, here's the wastewater, here's the water and then percentages or,
I mean, you guys did that great job back when.
Yeah, well, I want to just offer that-
I'm just saying, there's, you know, it showed the dollar amount, here's the projects, mandatory, nice to do. And that sheet that was pulled, I think, from the Hildebrand study, just, okay, not doing it, we've added stuff, and then the schedule. I mean, so 1 pager, that'd be great. I mean, you can PowerPoint, Excel, we can see that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't see that as being that hard. That's sort of been the request for a while.
Well, and it should be noted that worksheet does provide timelines for expected delivery of those projects. All the projects funded under the rate study weren't expected to be going all at one time. Remember, council decided to, with the majority of the capital improvements, to do what is called pay as you go, meaning we have to generate enough revenue to be able to pay the cost of these capital improvements. And that's a real critical aspect of how we are funding those projects, is building up our fund balance. And I think that's where further discussion on the budget is important over the revenue, because the surcharge will help offset our significant revenue loss. That didn't fully make up for it, but that all has to be evaluated in the context of being able to afford the projects as set forth in the timeline provided for in the rate the rate study. But we can update that.
Why we're asking is, for example, the current one from Hildebrand showed that we would have already started the new well in 2022, a couple of reservoirs in 2022, 2023, we'd be well underway with the second chlorine contact tank.
I'll have to look to determine if that's the schedule that was adopted. As you remember, based on as you recall, Mr. Kozlowski, the projects were scaled back significantly. And I know you were a big driver of that, to defer a number of the critical infrastructure improvement projects to later dates.
Not really defer. There was some that, like, get on with the new wells. If there's a drought, there's a shortage, you get the next well, which is what I hear about today. I'm really keen on hearing that. But these were ones that were nice to do. Remember, there was, do you need security cameras, fences? Do you got to do a SCADA upgrade? All those things, was that necessary? But the big major infrastructure, I agree with Mr. Walter's been consistent on this with the previous public works folks, was we got to get those infrastructure ones done.
Yeah.
Well, reservoirs and things like that.
Chair, this is leading to a kind of a more lengthy discussion. We've only done question 1 of question 5. And so we may want to agendize this in the future agenda.
Let's do that. Let's put that under future. Mike, let's go ahead and put this under future agenda so we can dive a little deeper into this now. So it's agendized.
Pretty much.
Yeah, just to get,
Okay.
just to make things more transparent as far as one place to look, okay, great, we see our water revenue is actually fixing the infrastructure, right?
So we're all happy. We can move that under future agenda items on that.
Yeah.
Move towards that. Thank you. Mr. Cloverdale.
There's a lot to unpack.
Yes, there is. Okay, let's move on to D and approval of minutes for the last meeting. Is there any reason? Anybody have anything on why we should approve the minutes from the last meeting?
I'd like to move for approval.
Happy second. Chair.
Let's go ahead and approve the minutes from the May 23rd, 23 meeting. Approve those. Mike, did you get that? All right. Move on to E, discussion proposal from Coastal and Civil Engineering for professional engineering and advanced surveying services for Clark Avenue rehab project.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Including in your packet is a letter proposal from Coastal and Civil Engineering for professional engineering and land surveying services for the what we're calling the Clark Avenue Rehabilitation Project. just by way of background, the council had listed this as the project on what's referred to as the SB1 or Senate Bill 1 list that we submit annually to the state of California. This is a project where we use SB1 funds to prioritize those funds for road improvements. Clark Avenue is has experienced significant degradation, and again, based on the need to make improvements, it was prioritized for SB1 funding. That's a source of funding that we have to kind of build up the fund balance, not unlike our water enterprise revenue, to be able to carry out the project. But during that time, we also realize it's necessary to start the preliminary engineering work and surveying work that will, inform the ultimate design, and as well as, help us do the initial planning and preliminary cost estimating for the project. So what we'd like to do is, or our recommendation is to proceed with the scope of work. There are some optional tasks included, and I'll kind of reference back to the 4th Street reconstruction project. When we were reconstructing the road, again, that was an SB1 project, a funded project. We believed it was prudent to undertake both water and wastewater improvements while we're doing the reconstruction work, or as in conjunction with. There are some optional tasks included in this scope to include that work, and we think it's a good idea to include the optional tasks so that we know in that area we have really aging water infrastructure. We have the asbestos containing pipe that it's really subject to breakage, and it's near its useful life. So we think as part of not only reconstructing the section of Clark, it will be make a lot of sense to replace the water line. And so part of this work will help inform what part of the water budget do we use to help cover that expense, along with the wastewater improvements. And so again, this is kind of the early phase of this project. The recommendation is that you support the scope of work. Ultimately, we bring this to council for ultimate consideration for approval of the scope, which is totals of just slightly under 105,000 for this initial work. But with that said, I want to acknowledge our city engineer who coordinated with Coastland Civil Engineering on the scope, and see if you have anything to add. Ms. Uppetter.
Let's see, I've got an exhibit here if you guys want to see. I think the options before you, the proposal before you includes some options to include sewer and water design as part of the project. You guys have heard me say it before. I'm a big fan of taking care of old infrastructure underground before we rehabilitate the pavement above ground. And so that's what we're looking for. And so I didn't have this ready in time to make the agenda packet, but I'd like to share screen here and show you what I'm looking at for the underground.
And Vanessa, if you can kind of show the scope of the project, from the area that's planned to be improved, I think that would be really valuable.
Okay, so here, hopefully you guys can see this without too much trouble. So we're looking at South Street as being the northerly limits of the project. And this kind of peach colored hatch shows the area of pavement improvements, and we would ideally go through the intersection of Blair Street. And so that would cross Alter. And so we have some existing water infrastructure in here that's relatively new. It was installed as part of these developments out here, but we do have some existing 4-inch asbestos cement pipe that should be replaced here. And the time to do it would be with this project. We would upsize that to city standards and go in with a proposed 8-inch water line. And it would pretty much be to these limits, which is just a little bit north of Alter Street, through the southerly intersection there at Blair. There would be some tie-ins here to the existing water main in Blair and Alter. We would be looking to replace a fire hydrant that is at the corner of Alter and Clark. The fire hydrant that's out there now does not have a hydrant valve. And so that's obviously very old. And so that would be another element. We are proposing to do the connection if the subcommittee approves of a water line replacement, in coordinating with city staff, operations staff. City staff would propose to put in a hot tap valve by the city before the project kicks off, just to facilitate that tie-in at the southerly project limits. And that would also ensure that we've got new line going in everywhere under existing pavement. I mean, under new pavement. For the sewer side of things, again, this 24-inch line is relatively new. It's in pretty good shape. And so that goes from South Street almost to Alter. We would like to get in there and rehabilitate the existing manholes with grout. Otherwise, there is a 6-inch main, an older main here from north of Alter Street down to a manhole in Blair at the intersection with Blair. And so we would like to talk about replacing that existing 6-inch sewer in kind with newer pipe materials. Again, there are 2 more manholes that would need to get rehabilitated as part of that work. So overall, I think we're looking at about, give or take, about 400-ish feet of sewer and water main replacement, a couple of valves, a hydrant, and grouting. I believe it was 6 manholes. And so you see the cost difference there on the coastland proposal. The cost difference to add that existing sewer and water improvements are about $7.5 grand each. From a design perspective, we won't really know until we get the cost estimate, but I'm guessing about $70K for the sewer construction, and I'm guessing probably about another $110K for the water main replacement.
Any idea, Vanessa, on the costs for the reconstruction of the pavement?
I think that's probably going to be very similar to 4th Street. I believe that this is a little bit longer of a stretch. And so if I'm remembering right, let's see, the 4th Street bid tabulations, I've got them up here. The high bid there was about 307, just as a ballpark, and considering that, we're going to go about another year of price increases, consumer price index increases, I would ballpark it at about 400K.
Plus the 75 for the water and then the other sewer, correct?
Correct. That's right. So we're looking at about $500,000+
Okay, and David, the number that you threw out, 105,000 to have the study done, that did not include the water and sewer, correct?
The scope of work by Coastland Civil Engineering provides the sewer and water as an alternative task.
Okay, so
we're seeking your support to include that work in the scope to bring to council for approval. Ultimately, that those improvements wouldn't necessarily have to be made. You can make a decision now, but we think it's prudent to do the design work as part of the work ultimately, and then do it when we bid it. We'll have request contractors to break out their costs for sewer, water, and street, so that those costs can be allocated back appropriately.
It would be roughly 119,000.
119 with those other 2. And I'm all in favor of that, Vanessa. I agree with you. When we rip the street up, we really should go in and make sure everything underneath it is in good condition. I know on the 4th Street project, we found some surprises. The lateral, I guess, mains, there was a few of them that we didn't realize were there. And I'm sure we're going to have some surprises with this one, as old as it is. And I guess my question is the shelf life. We still have to wait a couple of years to gather all the money to do this project. Am I correct?
Oh, I just did this reporting. I think that we are looking at advancing this project. It's weird to say next fiscal year. Next fiscal year, which starts in a few days now, that's going to be the design year. I believe that we can move forward with construction with the funds that anticipated to be in there the following summer. And so I think I'm looking at, let me look at my calendar here. I believe we're looking at the summer of 2025.
In the shelf life of this report, we won't have to upgrade it or anything once we have it done, correct?
What do you mean, the shelf life of the report?
Well, we're getting close land to do a study now in the report. And that's going to be good in 2025, right?
For Coastland to do this analysis?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I just want to be clear, I'm not sure if I misunderstood the previous question or not, but the 104,000 from Coastland is all inclusive. Without the sewer and water design, their design costs were 88.6 thousand.
Okay, so it is 100.
Okay. Yeah.
So 104 with sewer and water.
Correct. And so that's on the second page, or I guess the 8th page of their proposal shows the total project cost down at the bottom. And right above that is the design cost without the water and sewer. Here, I can zoom in a little bit better.
Yeah, so the optional costs for the water and sewer are just $14,590.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Vanessa, it's Rob Kozlowski. Just a quick question. Does the sizing of the 8-inch pipe allows for multiple structure fires to be addressed? Is that why you're upgrading to 8-inch?
The 8-inch is a minimum size per city standards. And so that's what we're looking at. And
with the new fire hydrants, it can support multiple structure fires, right?
well, that's the idea. That's
Pressure. Okay.
sure. That's the idea.
Well, and then also, I mean, like we've talked before, and Vanessa just mentioned too, is big, I mean, once you dig down and you're gonna do rehab the road. It just makes perfect sense to make sure everything's good underneath, because I don't want to dig up a new road and turn around and pay for this thing 2 or 3 times, so. I'm 100% on board with that.
And one thing that is kind of notable that's missing from this is all the drainage within the tarmac track is surface drainage. So we don't have any below ground drainage facilities. This would be something we might, as we engage in the design process, assuming council supports that in the subcommittee, look at are there available options for improving drainage. The tarmac track really is kind of a major conveyance area for a lot of the drainage that is generated west of that area, including the Times Square property drains through Tarman, and it's all above ground surface. This scope doesn't include any drainage solutions, though that may come up. And so I just want to point that out, that's really we're trying to tackle the need to reconstruct the road. How do we address that with respect to making sure we don't have to tear it up after we make those improvements? But there will likely be some discussion as we engage in the project about, are there options for improving drainage and how to do that without breaking the budget?
Well, there are certain sections along that road that have big dips in it, purposely for the drainage. And with this new construction, they're not going to go away. So we're going to be stuck with those above ground drainages again. And I guess that's all right. I didn't know. I'd like to see us try and get rid of them, but by the same token, I don't want to spend a lot of money when what we have now seems to be working okay.
Right.
So.
And I think, everything is kind of, it's plans versus actual. And so as Coastland is going through and developing the plans, we may end up discovering a viable drainage solution, in which case they'd probably come back to us for some additional design funds. But the reason I wanted to say something is because as we go through the local streets and roads program, there are provisions for drainage improvements to be included. Not so much for sewer and water, but there could be an avenue. It may delay construction by another year or so if we end up needing to do some substantial drainage improvements, but that is potentially a funded element of the project if needed.
Well, that would be covered by our wastewater, correct?
No, drainage is typically a general fund problem.
I'm sorry?
Drainage is typically a general fund problem.
So, Vice Chair, just the recommendation today is, the staff's recommendation to support the proposal from Coastal and Civil Engineering with the alternative scope to include sewer and water, to bring this forward to the council for authorization to enter into an agreement. And we would probably build a 10% contingency just for any minor cost overruns. If something significant comes up, we know we have to bring it back for further review. But this would be the intent to start the design work in the fiscal year starting July 1.
Transport. All right, let's move into E2, which is or E. Item number 2 is discussion proposal from West Hills for on-call city engineering services.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. Included in your packet is a proposal from West Yost for on-call engineering services. Just by way of background, West Yost has been serving as our city engineer now for I think slightly over about a year and a half. Prior to that, Ms. Apodaca did serve a stint as our acting city engineer. So she has considerable experience in serving in that capacity. In terms of the scope of work, initially West Yost was providing a very large set of services because we were absent a public works director. And since that time, with the onboarding of our public works director and engineering tech, a number of duties have been able to be transferred to our staff. And thus we've been able to scale the work with West Yost accordingly. Really where their focus is so critical is from projects that require engineering assistance in again serving as our city engineer, which there are obligations and requirements to have, but most specifically on projects that like the one we just discussed with Clark Avenue. But we also want to speak to some of the other services that West Yost provides that I think are highly valuable. They have a very highly qualified and professional grants management team. It was West Yost that prepared the DWR grant that was able to get $3.2 million worth of grants funding to the city. They also were the lead on the grant application of about $1 million to the United States Bureau of Reclamation, as well as the State Water Board for hopefully our update of our treatment plant to advanced treatment. So that's still under review. But most recently, they also did the grant application for improvement of First Street, and we were awarded slightly over was it?
Just like 370.
Yeah, 370,000. We got notice of award this week. So they've certainly made up for all the work that we've been costs we've incurred with just the grants alone. But the service that they provided has been significantly valuable. I know they also assisted quite a bit with the onboarding with our team, with overseeing the express permit process. But currently, we also have two significant development projects that are underway in way of the Vitacolli Tribal Project and the Baumgartner Residential Subdivision Project. West Yost is providing a construction management, basically construction inspection,
Public works inspection.
public work inspection services. So there's really a whole host of professionals at West Yost that under this contract we have available to us, and we believe while it's not inexpensive, there's tremendous value in the work that they offer to the city. And just on a personal side, I find Vanessa very helpful to work with, and a great member of our team. She does participate in our senior staff meetings, and I view her as an integral member of our senior staff. So with that said, Vanessa, anything you want to share?
Thank you, David. Yeah, if you didn't mention it, I was going to mention, I think we're somewhere around scoring the city $4.6 million-ish in grant funding, successful grant funding, and we really hope to be able to provide similar services in the future. I also want to note that especially for the development projects, the two large development projects in the south end of town, and hopefully some of the annexation projects, but I do track potential reimbursable costs. And so, anticipating that roughly about a quarter of these costs are going to be reimbursable.
I'd just like to add, if I could, Mr. Chair, a year or so, a year and a half ago, when we first brought you on, Vanessa, I was a little skeptical on the dollar amount that we were paying for engineering services. But you put that issue to bed for me with the grant recapture that you've done. And I know that we have very capable city employees, and we've had very capable city engineers, but we get caught up on our day-to-day assignments, and sometimes we just don't have time to go searching for grants. But your company surely has done that, and I support moving forward with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
100%. I was going to, Vanessa, thank you very much. And I'm just going to kind of echo what Gus says. I wasn't here when they brought you on, but I know that in these meetings, I'm sure some of the other meetings, there is a lot of grant writing going on in that day-to-day stuff. Like Vice Chair said that you can get caught up in that. So you jumping all over that stuff and getting it, we really appreciate it. It's a huge help to the city. So thank you very much.
Anything else on that, David?
That's it, Vice Mayor. The plan would be to bring the scope of work forward at the second meeting in July for council considerations, with the recommendation from the subcommittee and staff for approval.
All right, any other questions, comments on that? We can move into F, standing items, and start the updates. So first one, you want to just move down like we have previously, David, and just move right down and go through them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So first update is on the citywide drought relief water system project implementation. There are really four key water related projects that is kind of falls under that group of projects. I'll start with the smart meter project. Staff has been meeting weekly to discuss implementation of the smart meter project. Our engineering tech did a great job updating our website with most relevant information about the project, including frequently asked questions and kind of facts about the project. We are currently slated to actually begin the implementation of the meters starting July 31st. We have put a notice in the insert in the water bills that will be delivered after this, the bills that will be going out this week. Just providing notice that we will be getting that project. I think all the, well, maybe not all, but a significant number of the meters have already been delivered and are stored at our courtyard. Our public works director has been doing a lot of the direct day-to-day coordination on this project. There's a lot of details, so we'll go into everything unless there's anything, Derek, you want to share about the water meter project. It's for our team. It's a big endeavor. We are planning to approach this in a manner that hopefully will minimize or reduce disruption of services to our residents, and trying to address it in a fashion that is workable as we change out literally over 3,300 customers meters within the city. So I don't know if Derek, is there anything you want to add just on that project?
Yeah, the water meter project's huge. We're gonna go through a new preliminary kind of more of a soft start. We're gonna choose one of our routes that's easy to get to, and then we're gonna do a proof of concept with the interface with customers and how it goes with the change out, and then we'll kind of adjust our system from there. But with all the background and all the hands-on time we have with this, we're hoping it goes real smooth.
How long are they looking, out of curiosity, to do a meter? This is a question.
Optimal meter, well, they're talking about
Like,
taking 118 days to do all the meter.
no, I'm talking like for an individual residence.
Didn't you say a half hour or so?
Yeah.
Is that about what it is?
That's 30 minutes.
Gotcha, okay.
So, and a big part of that is kind of the coordination, because
Right.
we're shutting someone's water off
Yeah,
and replacing the meter, and then, trying to coordinate to ensure that the folks know now the water's gonna turn back on.
right.
There'll be door hangers is part of the effort.
That's just some of the questions I did,
Yeah. Well,
people are seeing the website and they have certain,
yeah, we'll look through the town and blocks, and they'll get door hangers and we'll make sure that everyone's schedules.
About a year ago, when we first started to talk about this project, our big concern was inventory on the shelf, and were we gonna be able to procure enough meters to do the whole project? And I think that's been pretty much put to bed now. There's ample stock of meters for us to purchase to get installed, right?
Yeah, how many have we received, Derek, do you know?
I don't know what the exact colors are.
We've received a significant stock of them, and they continue to flow in. Kind of the electronic read modules are separate, so we're getting those in as well. They're all being stored in a secure location. So, Vice Chair, anything else on that?
No.
Just moving forward, that the other projects include SCADA upgrades. I know our city engineer and our water team is working with, there's really very few firms that provide this service of doing SCADA design work. The SCADA, for reference, is the supervised control and data acquisition. It enables remote operation of our water treatment plant. The goal is to extend SCADA out to the distribution system, so we can remotely manage and monitor the distribution system. But we're working really with the sole provider firm called ArcSign out of Reading as they design the existing SCADA system. And I know our city engineers working on getting a proposal from ArcSign that will address the grant requirements. Anything else, Vanessa, that you want to share on that?
I really hope to be bringing that to city council at our meeting in July, on July 26th.
So the goal is we've been coordinating with them to get a proposal. I know they're very busy because there's not a lot of firms that do this work throughout the state. We certainly can bring it back here, but with your support, we'll bring an agreement forward to council.
Oh, yeah, 100% on board.
Okay, the two other projects, well 7 replacement and well 8 rehab. Vanessa, again, is there anything you'd like to share on those?
No, same thing. I'm, putting the fire under people. I'm really trying to get these proposals to city council as soon as possible.
Our goal is to meet the, of course, the funding deadlines. These are, big efforts again for the city, and critical for, ensuring, our water supply. Because, these wells have not been big producers, so hopefully the rehab and the replacement of them will, make a significant change in how much water we can supply.
Yeah, on the well replacements and rehabilitation, early on, there was discussion about doing a new well ahead of doing the replacement and the rehabilitation. Vanessa, is that changed in the last couple of years?
Not to my knowledge, this well 7 replacement and well 8 rehabilitation have been on the books for quite a few years now. This has been analyzed kind of on a preliminary feasibility basis, and I've always understood these projects to be a well 7 replacement and a well 8 rehab.
No, that's fair, but on the original study done by Hildebrand, they talked about doing a new well completely before they started working on 7 and 8. Has that plan disappeared from a couple of years ago?
I'm not aware of that. The only potential new well I've heard about was across the Russian River. I'm not sure if that's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, it was a 1.5 million project called New Well. And it was considered necessary. And then secondary was the rehab and the replacement.
Well, you would have to drill a new well. In order to
Right.
replace
Hence the 1.5 million.
So that's that won't get replaced with a new well.
Okay. Only reason I'm asking that was originally slated to be done in 2023. If you go back to the Hildebrand study that's on the web. So
Yeah, they may be referring to 7 is a replacement, and to replace it, you have to drill a new well.
new well, replacement, rehab.
Yeah,
Okay, so there is no new well coming, is that correct?
well, we would have to replace well 7
Right.
with a new well. That's what they're calling replacement, right, Vanessa?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the Hildebrand study is.
Replacement, rehab.
This is the-
Yes.
So we have you showing here, new well. Fiscal year 2022, and then well replacement 7 and well rehab 8. So are you saying the new well, then you'd have to drill?
I don't know why it's worded.
So, well,
we have to look and see if it's still on current.
Yeah. So
That's what I'm saying. So we're not doing a new well. We're gonna do- Scrapping the capital funds for the new well.
Let's clarify.
Yeah.
So the water utility capital spending plan that's provided in the adopted rate study identifies a new well. It does identify initial engineering work in fiscal year 22-23. That design work has not occurred. The priority level is based on development. It was part of this was whether the Baumgartner subdivision, the Vita College projects would trigger the need for a new well. The cost that's identified in the utility capital spending plan was based on use of development impact fees. So it's my understanding, and I can verify this, that capital cost, I think is Mr. Kozlowski's point, is that this was to be funded by water rate revenue. And that is not my understanding. So, and that's why priority levels related to development and the project being funded by payment of impact fees by those developments. So now well 7 and well 8, which were identified as being prepared in fiscal year 24-25, fiscal year 25-26, are water rate revenue driven with the addition of the grant revenue.
Okay, so there's been a bit from the public's point of view, which I represent just one person, me. There's been a shift in the priority of the projects you're doing now.
I wouldn't characterize that. I think this priority level for 7 and 8 are considered mandates, meaning critical. the new well was identified as priority level related to whether development was triggering the need, because there was a question as to would we be able to meet the water supply needs of the community by approving these new developments.
Or addressing drought as the water table drops, right?
Not so much drought, but certainly development. I think that, you know, we always have a concern that if we're approving new development, that there's sufficient water supply to address it. Now, during this whole time we're developing this, we're also doing the work on the water master plan that was performed by GHD, and they determined there's adequate capacity without a new well. I'll say as an aside, I know our council has expressed the desire to build resiliency in our system, look at alternatives to expanding our water supply capacity, possibly looking at off river supplies if they're available, and those are all things that are being discussed and how we might be able to again build our resiliency. But the focus has been kind of how do we deliver really on this immediate well 7 and well 8, and then our public works director is going to talk about the well 6 rehab, which is also a critical maintenance project for water delivery. So all these things are, you know,
Why I've been sort of bringing it up, that addressed like say 1.5 million this fiscal year at the time. So does that free up money to do these other projects like the Clark Avenue, the rehab on the Willows?
Million would have been created from developmental impact fees that we had not received.
Right, so we were expecting them, but we didn't get them as a city. Okay.
No.
Gotcha.
We've gotten some of them, but that's really, the impact fees are to accommodate new growth.
Right.
So it has to be related to accommodate new growth, not
Yeah,
existing infrastructure that's aged out.
And plus, Rob, like I said earlier, this is infrastructure money. I mean, it's not to replace, it's to delay it. I mean, we still eventually have to do it. It's just a question of when, and if we cut back on the fees now, or the rate increases, how do we justify going forward when we may need twice as much money because of cost increases? It's almost like, you know, I hate
Do it now, otherwise you can't afford it later. That's part of it.
Okay, exactly. And you know, talking about a new well, you know, I know I've talked to other council members and personally, I want to see about us doing it on the east side of the river. Because the river is meandering and it's, until we can get in that river and keep that water in the middle, you know, we don't know where the dry spots are.
Well, and the other discussion about maybe why in the past we didn't pipe any water from Lake Sonoma, which of course dropped way down, right?
Yeah, but we couldn't do that anyway.
Right. No, that's right.
Yeah, but there's plenty of wells, on the east side that pump like crazy. That some of the farmers own that, you know, maybe we can talk to them about getting some of that water.
Yeah, and just referring back to the water rate study, the water rate study does identify the impact fee funded projects and their contribution towards the cost of delivering those capital improvement projects. So it's all included in the cash flow pro forma that's included in the water rate study. But it requires a lot to kind of unpack that.
All right, let's keep moving.
Okay, next item is standing item is the water system maintenance activities. And these are again critical maintenance projects for you know, I consider them O&M. They're not funded by impact fees because they truly are operation and maintenance activities. But we've entered into a number of agreements with Bartley Pump to perform maintenance of our in complete rehab in some cases of our pumps within our distribution system. Most recently, we've been doing significant work on the rehab of well 6, which is one of our primary water producing wells. I've seen some of the pictures. Derek, maybe you can give vice mayor and vice chair overview of
And we
of work that we-
identified well six as the production going way down. And so on valving off, we found out it was like little to no production. That's where a lot of our issues were coming from with water production inflow. So we had it taken out and they did a full rehabilitation on it. They air shocked the well. They rebuilt the pump, rebuilt the motors. And so now we should be getting quality flow through this well for the upcoming demand. And it should be back together. We're hoping by the end of this week, middle of next week, depending on the contractor's vacation schedule. So that's going to help a lot. We'll have well six back up to a couple hundred gallons, we're hoping.
Is that due to silt? Is that what caused that?
Yeah, we think a little bit of it as a result of the high water table and all the turbidity and silt coming in there. So the air chopping helped it a lot.
That's the casing, right? This is the,
Yeah,
we recase the lining.
yeah. We air chopped the lighting, we didn't recase them. And then we also had the pump holes pretty much worn out. So we were not getting near the pressure that we should be getting out of the top of that well.
What do you think the cost of rehabbing that was ballpark if you had to pick a number?
It was what, 28, around 28 with the air shop?
28,000.
I'd have to look. I can get you the
Just
exact-
curious.
Yeah, that doesn't include the cost of the work on the distribution systems pumping. I think all in all, it was almost 200,000 if you sum it all.
Right, yeah, the distribution pumping system was a different, different agreement. You guys had agreed on that. That was close to $204,000 agreement that went through council, and that involved the effluent pump rebuilds, multiple pressure and effluent pump rebuilds for our foothill pump station. We also incorporated, we found a slight leak in a fitting underneath the water plant, and we approached that with a sanitary epoxy fix while that effluent pump was out. So we hope there's up there. We still have more effluent pumps and some centrifugals that are going in on the foothill station after they've been rebuilt with the through pump man. We should be seeing, I'm thinking by the end of next month, everything on that.
What's the life expectancy of those pumps, like maintenance schedule, right? Is that something you gotta do every 5, every?
So every year, we kind of have like a rotating, like at the foothill station, we have a rotation where we have one pump motor ready to go, that goes in, and everything skips over, so it's about every 3 years, each one kind of turns over and gets rebuilt and replaced, rebuilt and replaced.
Yeah, so that's, it's a really critical operation and maintenance of the system, the distribution system pumps. To ensure that we've got redundancy and, we're ready to go in case of an emergency. But there was some deferred maintenance, but overall, I think our water team is really definitely trying to make sure we're keeping all of our systems in full operation.
Yeah, that's all I know on that.
All right. Keep rolling.
Okay, so item 3 is a community survey for Ferber Park Playground renovation. We previously received a presentation about potential upgrades to the existing Ferber Park Playground. The direction was to conduct a community survey of residents in regards to getting feedback on recommendations for improvements to the park. And at this juncture, we part of what we were doing was wanted to ensure that our understanding of the current park impact fee balance is we have a good solid number under which to work from. Given we had a number of projects underway, including the basketball court project, the dog park project, Plaza Park, restrooms, and pickleball. So we're kind of getting close to being able to come up with a really good number. Dog park we're going to be putting that out to an informal bid probably first thing next week. We just finished up the plan drawings for that project. And so once we have a really good number, the intent was to prepare a survey for the community around Ferber Park in terms of seeking kind of their feedback on proposed improvements. So at this point, we have not conducted the survey. It's really just wanted to button up the budget number, so whatever we present is realistic.
And the other thing, we wanted to wait to get the reimbursement for the basketball court, which was about 189. So we're submitting that hopefully this week. And then when we get that money, then we'll have, like David said, we'll better. Something we don't want to promise if we don't have the money, so.
Right.
And the whole project has been completed. The last item left on the project was the drinking fountain.
Yeah.
And that is, we finished that today. We're waiting for the concrete to dry out.
We'll be back with that.
All right. And then, where are we at here? Okay, Lighter Ranch.
Well, coming back, a little bit, do we have that pickleball report coming to us later on that agenda?
Item 5,
It's fine.
We're coming up here shortly.
Thank you.
we should be asking. I think there may be.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see, I don't know if we wanted to, Vice Chair, I don't know if you want to seek comments. I don't know
Sorry.
if Sarah's an attendee. I don't know if she had anything to offer.
And that was on the Ferber Park. Sarah, did you have any comments? I see you're on there.
But do you do a lot of talk or?
Chair, I'm just gonna unmute your microphone. Chair, no, Sarah did not have her hand raised.
Okay.
And let's move on to Lighter Ranch.
Okay, the Light Ranch Soda Springs open space acquisition is continuing. Again, this acquisition was supported and approved by the city council and subsequently by the board of supervisors.
Something going on outside, Bobby?
I'm gonna take a look. Our representatives from Ag and Open Space have been coordinating with the Lyda family owners on closing escrow. There was, just for an update, there was the title report indicated there were some deviations that need to be corrected, and which require the assistance of a surveyor to correct and to get that filed. So I think that's in process. And there's, finalizing negotiations with the property owner. I think the agreed upon price is just all of the terms of escrow that is being worked through, and that's being done by Ag and Open Space. So
And on that, we were talking about, and I know we brought it before, didn't they have like some type of water source up there in the Lighter Ranch that we're gonna talk about using for the maybe irrigating parks?
yeah, they have a pretty significant well. Chris, we're kind of just waiting to get closure on that acquisition. And at which point, we would be in city hands. So we'll add that one of the concurrent components of this acquisition, because it's money through the Ag and Open Space District, is they do what's called a baseline report that documents existing conditions. The existing conditions include the trails, the natural environment, the creeks, the habitat, and so forth. The roads, our park superintendent attended their consultants that performed the baseline study we have that report. We're currently reviewing its draft and we'll be providing our feedback and comments on that. One of the things that we need to put together as the next step is our estimated costs for being able to enable public access to the project, similar to what we did with Porterville Creek open space, being able to develop a trailhead plan, necessary improvements, including parking, addressing any habitat restoration or vegetation management that might be necessary. And also a trail plan similar to what we did with Porterville Creek. So we need to put together that cost estimate to request a set aside of funding from Open Space District. I know they're amenable to at least 250,000, but our costs, depending on the level of work we want to do as planning, could exceed that, but we'll be putting that proposal together and submitting that to the Ag and Open Space to seek funding for some of this preliminary planning work. So we can, start moving through the stages of assuming acquisition gets all approved, opening it up to public access.
Great. Yeah, Kevin, David and I met today and went over the baseline document. Just to talk about some of these projects, like David mentioned, some creek maintenance, some erosion control, vegetation management. Maybe we can get the open space to give us some additional funding to address some of that. But we'll get those comments back to them.
Right, and ultimately to cover the costs for some of the public improvements necessary for access.
Yeah, but after that initial money is received from them, that's basically it. There's no annual money coming in, correct?
That's my understanding, Vice Mayor, though I'm sure they'll tell us, like they have in the past, that we can apply for other funds. But once we get our initial kind of endowment, that will likely be it in terms of initial funds for finding improvements. But we can also apply for seek funding from grants and other things subject to their availability.
All right, potential park enhancements, moving on, Mr. Oral.
All right, let's see, we've got a lot listed here: pickleball courts, bag toss, golf, ping pong, bocce courts. I know, maybe real quick, Hector, before we jump on the pickleball, you've ordered the bag toss improvements for City Park.
Yeah, so I emailed, got a hold of Russ Recreation, and I received confirmation that the toss bag boxes will be delivered, or they're going to be arriving 7/3/23. So they're about a month. Yeah, so they're actually a couple weeks. So they'll be here, and then as soon as they get here, we're gonna go ahead and install them. That is Street City Park.
7/3 is next Monday.
Yeah.
No, I misread. It's the 7/31. I thought it was a dash. No, I think it was a dash. No, it's a one. It's a one. So no, they'll be here on 7:30. Yeah, and then once they come in here, we'll install them right away. We have the existing runways already. It's going to be pretty easy installation. They're very heavy. They're about 400 pounds each. They're made out of concrete. Yeah. We still might have to anchor them. I'm just gonna see, bring them out there and just kind of test it out. Yeah. But I don't think anybody's gonna walk away with it. We might put some little concrete pad and just anchor them down.
Yeah.
And then since we're on the purchasing new stuff for parks, I did also receive a confirmation on the downtown benches and closets. So they're saying 8/15 will be the delivery. So yeah, there's just so many of them. They said I might be able to deliver a few of them. And I said,
We'll catch Latin for a couple Friday nights.
Yeah. So they're like, we might be able to deliver like 4 or 5 of them and then wait. So I said, just whatever works out for you guys, sooner the better. Will be good for us, because then we can utilize the existing benches and bring them over to the proposed dog park. And maybe the open space and maybe other parks that we can utilize, definitely can use those benches with a little better rehabilitation.
And Hector, the planning and sustainability subcommittee did recommend reusing the park bench, two of them for Porterville.
Great, yeah, I did get that information from Kevin, and we do have two new ones in stock, so we might just.
Which ones?
Yeah, they're missing a few slot, 2x2s, but we might.
How many extra do we have on that? So I know somebody, you know, up there at the room, the winery rooms at the end there,
Yeah,
a lot of people had mentioned where you make the corner where it is,
yeah,
a bench right there.
yeah.
Where again?
So when you're walking up the winery trail
Oh,
and it goes up, and just, it kind of makes the corner before it goes to Hot Spring Road, so you got the winery rooms right there. I've had two individuals, I don't have her name, I can't remember her name, she goes, boy, it'd be nice if they put a bench right here. I said, well, okay, thank you, but that would be perfect up there.
that comes with its own issues, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Actually, it's, we got people hanging out on this bench, you know.
No, I mean, she's the one that has mentioned it would be nice to have a place to sit in between her walks, and I, okay, well, you know. I told her I'd look into it, so I'm looking into it, so we got an extra one, maybe, I don't know. See what happens.
Well, I think that's the intent, is to be able to deploy those benches out into our park system. Once we get the new more benches in our class parks. I know our Parks in Virginia will make that happen.
We're gonna have a lot of them up there, so especially once the new ones come.
Okay. All right, well, I think the next one is pickleball courts, and I know Mr. Howell was here. There's been some additional work undertaken by staff, and I'm sure Brad participated in doing some measurements out there at Ferber Park, in the area where there's an existing swing set.
Yeah, I think at the last subcommittee meeting, I had asked that staff come back with some measurements, and is it possible to do another pickleball court there? So, yeah, I know I'd like to hear about that.
I'll just give a little bit of information. My assistant Miguel and Brad met out there a couple days ago at Frugal Park. They took a few measurements, and according to Miguel, and here are just some of the findings that they found out there when they were there. I guess they found that by removing the existing swing set, or no, I guess if we keep the existing swing set, right, Brad, and then move north of that and stretch the pickleball court west side of that up to the tree line. So if you're looking at the existing swing set,
Yeah.
west of that where that tree line is,
Gotcha.
there will be enough room to put two pickleball courts there. So that was one of the options. The other option was to remove the existing playground and swing set and add the pickleball courts there.
And where would we put the swing sets?
It was not determined at the time.
But we could put two in and leave the swing set there.
So guess what we did was we measured two different spots. The spot where the swing set is right now, that is the largest area that's available. And we would still have to cut back into the embankment that's in the by that row of trees.
Yeah.
To get that to fit. So that sidewalk would need to come out, and probably the other sidewalk that's by the three maple trees back there. But it fits, there's plenty of room to put two more courts there. Then we also measured the area where the existing playground equipment is, to see if we could fit a 60 by 60 foot pad in there. And it would fit. There's one corner of it that drops off, it needs some grading and some stabilization. And it's also closer to the creek there. I don't know what the rules are about something being near the creek, but the creek bends right there, and so that's maybe an issue. I don't know.
Yeah.
But both of those spots would fit. The area where it would not fit is that open area that's just east of the existing courts now. You know, the Parks has their little turnaround area, it's asphalt there, there's an open area, and that area is too small for 60 by 60. However, it probably be ample space for the swing set.
So just some of the findings here that Miguel, I'm just looking at Miguel's notes here. So, and then I went out there myself and took a few measurements on the first option with the first measurement you guys took. Where that to leave the proposed, to leave the existing swings there and go west of that. one of the issues here that I found while going out there, there's an existing trail that goes all the way around the park. So you would have to reroute that trail somewhere, and it wouldn't be enough room. So I don't know.
big drainage right there
There's a huge drainage there. There's most of the drainage of the park is right there. It'll be in the middle of the pickleball courses. We're building the two of them. And then there's a lot of irrigation lines and utility lines. So that's an issue that we're gonna have to deal with if the council decides that's what they want.
So of the two sites, which would be the best?
I mean, my personal opinion, I don't think there's enough room in that park for two pickleball courts. I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I'm here to be directed at what you guys want me to do, but I just don't think there's enough room there, especially since we're gonna hopefully in the future renovate the playground. It's one of the oldest playgrounds. And when it's time to, like we mentioned the last time, Public Works sub, it's getting very difficult to find parts and replacement parts for that playground, because there's no longer the company that originally put the playground in, and they're no longer in business, so that you can't get, I only have one vendor that can supply parts for that, and that's a concern. Because it's, we don't want any kids to get hurt out there because we couldn't find the parts. So I think renovating the park would be the number one priority. But I said, I'm here for your direction, whatever you guys want me to put my effort into and my time, I'm more than happy to do it. I just think we should find a different location. That's just.
Well, we're gonna need this, and we're gonna send out the survey or whatever and find out what people want down there, and that might be a huge driver also. You know what I mean? We've got to see what the results are coming from that. Are they gonna want park? Cause that is used by pickleball consistently. You guys are down there nonstop and it's loaded up. But in turn, it's also loaded up daily with kids. So we've got to balance that out pretty good. That there is a lot of kids that are down there all the time, every single day, especially summertime, it's loaded.
Well,
Yes, so and then also if we cut off, it's a nice walking trail for everybody. It gets used all the time down there. You cut that off and reroute that, you're gonna have issues with people down there also that aren't, some are gonna like it, some aren't gonna like it. Can't make everybody happy and get that, but you're gonna.
Yeah.
well, one of the things, and I get what we're trying to do is, have pickleball in one location.
Right.
So when we have a tournament, we're not sending people all over. town.
Yes.
There's something about having that camaraderie right there.
Right.
So, I'd like to hear from, Kevin and Brad and get their inputs too, and David, what your thoughts are, but, I'd like to see it go there. I'm only one of 5 votes, so.
I think encroaching to the creek, normally if it was a developer, we would try to keep them, as much as 50 feet from the top of the bank per our general plan, or at least center line creek. So that's one thing. I don't know that that's insurmountable, but just getting close to the creek does start talking about planning issues. So that's one thing. I don't know, whatever it would be nice to redo the playground, I think, just because it's a multi-generational park. There's a lot of.
Well, can we redo the park?
Yeah.
To include a pickleball court? And reconfigure the whole thing. It's going to be pretty expensive. I think we've got $750,000 or something. To redo the whole thing with the equipment and all.
Yeah.
So, I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Do we shelf this until we replane that playground? And at least leave a spot for a pickleball court.
Well, I do like the idea of the survey. If you want to hear what people on that.
You're gonna hear what everybody has to say. That's a driver right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, just to kind of add a couple of thoughts here is it's really about competition for space. I could, for instance, see building another court to the west. Now, what that does is it encroaches upon the area where
To the west of from where?
the existing courts.
Oh,
That would put it in the middle of the ball field, wouldn't it?
Well, it would put it on the outfield of the ball field. So that, I guess where we're going with this is about how do you,
Right,
if there's competition for space and,
Right.
and you put it, the playground, a lot affects the playground. And you have to weigh what interest group is gonna receive benefits over another. So it's kind of, can we accommodate everything? If we can with acknowledging there's gonna be, someone's gonna lose, an interest group, a league is gonna lose space.
right. But I mean, that's like that space you're talking about right now is where the old scoreboard was. They've got 2 poles out there right now. And realistically, that little section right there, that's where city trucks or whatever, if you're doing anything on the park and you have to go out into the grass, you go into that section right there. And then you've got Little League. I've seen some good hitters, but I haven't seen any jack one all the way out there yet. So I mean, come on. You know, you guys soccer and that the fields take up that right there, but also, I mean. That's, I never thought of that spot, but that might be something to look into, just above the existing pickleball court now.
Mhm. If you remove if you require a retaining wall, I think you'd have to shorten up the baseball field a little bit. That is an area used by some of the.
Soccer league.
Soccer and
Yeah.
t-ball.
T-ball, soccer, you say, they have T-ball, so
It's heavily used.
that's very,
That little section is.
yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, I'd like to see us, when we come back with the redesign of the playground equipment, if we're moving swings and slides and everything else.
Yeah.
Maybe we try and decide, like the horseshoe pits, I don't know that we need those anymore. Unless we
Yeah.
get-
What's that?
What kind of a pickleball?
Two of them is 60 by 60,
It's a pretty big space.
the big space.
If we're gonna to do one would be, you know, we want.
Yeah.
All right, so how do we wanna leave this? When do we think?
Well, we've got to wait for that survey. From the community to come out and then see right there. Like I said, that may be a big driver for which direction we need to go on this.
Maybe,
And the budget too, I think
Mhm,
that's
budget.
what we're trying to, is get all the numbers finalized. I mean, we don't know the dog park yet, but we will hopefully within the next month, that we put out the bid, we'll have a more solid number in terms of estimated construction costs. So then we will be able to plug that into our existing budget tracking worksheet. Then of course, the council always has the discretion to put additional funds. Though those are more limited. So kind of the 2 pieces of the survey work and the budget, we're trying to move both those along, making progress on the dog park. We'll just have better information to be able to bring back to the subcommittee.
Well, I think, I think the main challenge is finding the space.
yeah,
It is.
And eventually we'll get to doing it,
yeah,
you know, when money starts coming in, but if we could at least designate a spot for it
yeah.
on that site, I think would be a big step. And go from there. But that survey, I'm sure will say, you know, you want another pickleball court,
Right.
you know.
I think that's something that we can work on, we can, just work on the community outreach meeting, and maybe we can just have it there on site, we can have it there at Fair Park, where we can have like, some small event, sort of thing, we can show up.
No, I don't know, right?
And I guess going out into the parking lot is a no-no, right?
Taking the west parking lot?
It's,
Well, no, it would be the south parking, lot, right?
Elbridge sign.
Elbridge side.
the little lawn area.
Yeah.
Do you mean the lawn area or the parking lot?
Take your choice.
No, the lawn area, we don't have.
I got a question on the existing pickleball court. Why do we still have sandbags down there? Is a drainage issue down there?
No, that's not, no, we'll, that's ours.
Oh, God, yeah, I didn't know.
One thing we were gonna do, we talked to Brad about, we're gonna get, we had a little bit of issue with some flooding, so we are planning on installing a new branch drain. To capture some of the water that's coming from us, where the sandbags are,
Mhm.
there's water there. We'll get them out of there.
Yeah, we're battling for real estate here. You know, that's all it is.
Anything else to add?
It's those gentlemen.
No, I certainly appreciate the attention. It's just
Well,
We're
it's
searching.
be on the agenda next month as well.
And just as an aside, I think, when we discussed the concept of, enhancing the tennis courts at the high school, recognize that, you know, there's still some challenges with how the availability there, but we'd still like to pursue that, and I think there makes, again, it might not address the pickleball club, but maybe some other interest within the community, and maybe relieve some of the pressure, on the demand for space at Fervor. But again, that's just another avenue for us to pursue, is to work with the school, coordinate, collaborate with the school on restriping some of their courts.
Restriping for pickleball?
Yes.
They also, I know you sit on the schools subcommittee also, and I talked to the superintendent about this. Those courts are gonna need to be resurfaced within the next 2 years. Okay, as regular cycle.
Well, if I can, maybe you'd be so kind, Brad, to prepare a letter, you know, that would kind of help spark the conversation around, maybe it's, you know, if we resurface, then it's a good time to do that.
Yes, it would.
The striping for pickleball, so maybe we could do that all as one comprehensive project.
You wanna, to you or to the schools subcommittee?
Send it to the school subcommittee. I think, I mean, I think you still kind of represent the tennis community. That this is something we should earmark or look at, because to do both at the same time makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Who paid for that last time? Wasn't it a split between the city, the school, and the tennis association?
It was, about 12 years ago was when we totally redid it. That was the big project. The city had.
Redevelopment.
Yeah, and the schools had some money that they could only be used on recreational things, couldn't go to anything else. And the tennis association put in some money also. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, the courts were resurfaced again. The tennis courts, as they weather and get used, they have a fine sand that's in that surface that's on there, and that sand is starting to come up now. At some point, it gets slippery. So that's why the courts are going to need to be resurfaced. And I think that the resurface, I don't remember who paid for that. Because,
I'm not sure.
yeah.
Well, thank you, and we'll keep plowing away here.
Okay.
And keep us apprised of anything else going on that maybe will alleviate the situation, so.
Yeah, will do.
Thank you, Brad.
See you later.
Citywide street striping plan.
Okay, Vanessa, I'm gonna just kind of turn this one over to you, to provide an update to, our public works subcommittee.
35 million for,
Not quite that much. I think preliminary costs. So the consultant has looked at striping plans for the Boulevard, Foothill and Treadway. And they've given us at this point 90% plans. We just have to review and send comments back in order for them to get those finalized. And I believe, if I remember correctly, your direction was option 2 from the last subcommittee meeting for the Citrus Fair striping. And so getting that added to their scope, getting them to update the Boulevard plans with that Citrus Fair updated striping. Those are all on our to-do list. We do have some preliminary costs from the consultant. And so as a total for the Boulevard, Foothill and Treadway, we're looking at about $375K. The Boulevard itself is coming in at about 190. We've got 14.5 for Treadway and 171K for Foothill. And so if you guys have any other direction, you know, to break those up into smaller pieces or to just have them move forward with the plans, if nothing else, it could inform future striping projects. But I think right now we're just looking at buttoning up the 90% plans and getting them finalized. And then in theory, we'll bring it back to you to see if or how we move forward.
Yeah, I think just based on the magnitude of the cost to do everything, we kind of envisioned that we would break this project into phases. And part of that was the strategic with working with W-Trans as our consultant. So that we had a set of bid documents that we could just identify a phase, put it out and get it done so that it ends up being kind of a multi-year effort. So once we have the plans complete, it's just a matter of identifying the section, putting it out to bid, and we should have a fairly good idea of what it's going to cost based on the preliminary cost when we get the bids back. Is it anything to add on that, Vanessa? I think, part of it too, with what we put out to bid is going to be reflective of the pavement management plan, because there were I think there was support for the idea that maybe we do other improvements before we do a complete restriping. Because ultimately, if it came back, we did an overlay, and it's just going to cover up the striping that we just did. So we're going to be having a look at that and maybe bring some alternatives forward on specific phasing, what we want to get done within our kind of our ability to fund the improvements.
How much of the boulevard are they talking? This section down here or all the way from? All the way to south into town?
Well, I think it
All the
was
way
Third Street
through?
up to Third Street and north. I think, Vanessa, is that correct?
I believe so. We're pretty much from city limits to city limits.
Yeah, north and south.
Gotcha.
So part of that is gonna be maybe, looking at that and should we break it down in what segments
Oh, yeah.
we want to kind of send out for restriping. But then taking into account what areas do we want to do an overlay first.
Yeah, there were large areas of the boulevard that it was recommended within the next 5 years that we slurry seal. And so it's not as beefy as an overlay, but it would still obliterate any striping that went down. So if we're going to look at doing a slurry seal first, that's got to happen first.
I guess the overall message is we continue to make progress.
Yeah.
There's some based on previous direction changes we just need to finalize. Then we'll be at the 100%, and then it's really coming back to subcommittee to get kind of direction on phasing and implementation.
Any other comments, Circus?
No, thank you.
All right. Let's roll into Allen Avenue.
Allen Avenue asphalt repair is, we're still assessing it. We're working with FEMA to make sure that we've got bids for the job to do the main asphalt repair. We're kind of working out with FEMA what fix is going to fall under their scope of reimbursability because of the January storm event. So we're currently in the process working with them before we move forward with any permanent repairs. Downtown sidewalk pavement conditions, so we just got 2 big chunks replaced. We continue to assess and we're going to put on the books a couple more spots that are well known bad spots, but it's kind of a time and budget thing. We're going to work into these slowly throughout the year.
Yeah, I want to applaud Derek for moving this forward. I think the improvements just south of the intersection of First Street and the boulevard had reached kind of critical conditions with the tree roots. And then likewise, our park superintendent helped to address the trees in both locations where improvements were done. But I think our contractor did a great job. It was coordinated by our public works director. Glad to get that tripping hazard done.
That's good.
And we were able to save the trees.
Yeah, so far we're doing good. So what we did is right after the repair was done, we went in there and treated both trees with some slow release fertilizer and some nutrients to get those roots to regrow. But so far, I don't see any stress on the tree. And yeah, it really turned out good. The root barriers installation was
They work.
First Street, Crocker Bridge pedestrian improvement.
Okay, well, the county has awarded a contract to contractor to do the work. I know our park superintendent noted they were out doing preliminary construction survey work.
Yes, sir.
The indication is that the project's gonna be done before the end of the calendar year. So we'll see how quickly. I think a lot of it is because it's prefabricated bridge sections.
Yeah.
For us, it's really about the tie-in to our, the river trail. But we'll just continue to monitor and be there as a collaborator with the county to see this project to completion.
Well, I know it came out at the meeting, but I guess their biggest problem now is waiting for the summer bridge to get in. Because that's got to get in first before they can close the First Street Bridge down.
Correct.
So that's gonna be the challenge. I don't know how far off that is at this point.
It should be, they're hoping to have it, work done on it starting after a week before.
Fourth of July.
Yeah, and it's pretty late this year. Usually they have it in by by the Memorial weekend, but I think because it's such the high flows that we experience with all of the rains this winter, there's now a multiple channels that require crossing, so it's a lot more.
It's a good problem to have, though.
So that is great. Yeah, really, please. Yeah. Used to do it, but yeah.
Bridget. All right, Russian River Water Forum.
Okay, well, I've been monitoring this effort, and we've been providing updates to the community in the weekly newsletter pretty much consistently. The next meeting, I think, is Wednesday, July 13th. There is a meeting this Thursday of water suppliers, that's the Public Works director to attend. It'll be at the Cloverdale Fire Department. And these are the breakout groups that report up to the forum to talk about kind of bring to the table specific issues of concern, whether it deals with water rights, recreation, environmental issues. So all that stuff is kind of making its way up to the water forum. Right now, the water forum has been somewhat dominated by the Mendocino County interests that want to see the dams removed. That's been a very strong vocal component at the two initial meetings. And I think there's a real intent to try to address some of those issues with some of the concerns of other parties and interests, and also kind of history of how dams get removed, what's involved in that effort. And we're of course dealing with we'll call it relicensing. I mean, really, at this point, it's the PG&E is basically withdrawing from the process, and there's some strict timelines that are going to have to be adhered to address the vacuum that's created by the withdrawal. So a lot's going on. Just want to really report at this point that we continue to be involved, participate, and we'll continue to provide updates as they become available.
Well, I think you said it, and maybe not the words I would use, but it's almost like a T-square, what's the effect of the removal? Who does it affect? And how do we prioritize who's more important?
And if there's going to be a group that can stand up to manage and pay for the transfer of water that we know is critical for water supply within Sonoma County. Pretty complicated.
6 acres.
So 6 acres, the council did approve the ordinance for the pre-zoning in support of the annexation. Our staff is currently coordinating with the state appointed representative on the annexation application. And likewise, the firm that's overseeing the improvement plans continues to make progress, albeit slow, because the state process or paying for the effort. It's fairly bureaucratic and slow. But we just continue to move this along, and at some point we will be submitting on behalf of the city an annexation application for the 6 acres water company area. And we expect the South Cloverdale is still doing a lot of the preliminary work. And then that will follow at some point after 6 acres is done.
And broadband.
So broadband, this just for transparency, this is also something that's been talked about, planning sustainability. There's the discussion at the county about allocating broadband funding to each of the supervisorial districts. I think our understanding is the funding is being prioritized towards extending broadband to areas that currently don't have service. But then kind of following that will be an effort to improve access to broadband services. And, I think there's an interest in seeing how additional funding could be provided to Cloverdale to expand broadband. Some kind of, there was kind of 3 ideas, 3 project concepts that were floated. One was adding public Wi-Fi to the downtown, which of course is contingent upon there being some kind of public portal connection to broadband services. Building a better fiber network through the downtown, say from Citrus Fair Drive to the high school, that would enable businesses and residents within that to connect to that fiber, which would offer high-speed internet. And then kind of third, getting back to kind of focusing more on public facilities, is how do we improve broadband services to our critical city essential facilities, our public works, courtyard, and our water treatment plant, because both of them internet service is very poor and lacking, and it's really kind of a critical need for the city, and it's really about providing essential services, and so that's in my mind that's the priority.
Well, I saw something, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw something on the news today, as a matter of fact, about how all of this internet and all that is becoming, instead of a luxury, it's a critical infrastructure thing, which has been moved from the president now, and he was talking about a lot of funding going out. Now, how long that takes to get down to us, that's fine, but that's something that he's prioritizing too. It's like, hey, everybody needs to have this. This is something you need. So I don't know what kind of funding will funnel down to the states and eventually down to supervisors in Cloverdale, but one can hope.
Right.
You know what I
We
mean?
want to keep our eyes out, and I know there's been strong interest expressed by previous subcommittee members, and part of it was the message that I was receiving was it's being prioritized, this first phase towards, again, expansion to areas that don't have it, period.
Right.
And so I understand that, and then we're going to be kind of in that phase 2 category. And so we should try to get aligned on what are our critical projects, what do we want to do, what does it take to do it with some cost estimates, so that when the time comes, we can apply for those funds. I'm sure they're going to be competitive, just getting ourselves prepared to submit something to help fund this effort.
Perfect. Anybody else got anything on that? All right, let's move to G, future agenda items. We have evaluate park maintenance costs and fees. I know we mentioned one of the last ones is find out the cost of like commercial, like Vintage Meadows doing it versus our city guys, and come up with see the cost difference there.
Yeah, that's in the future. So
So
our goal is to do that work to get
Okay.
some estimates to be able to bring back to the subcommittee for review. We just Been a busy meeting this time.
I did reach, I had a little time, I reached out to Garden Works, who is currently, who currently mows Vintage Meadows Park for us. And they're interested, and, at this point, we just gotta schedule a meeting to go over the scope services. And get together and do that, because that would free us up, especially those new maintenance projects that we've got coming down.
Light a ranch and.
Yeah.
You start
building
it
up,
up,
and
and it's like, well.
To drink about 5 gallons of coffee every day.
Yeah.
And likewise, the OIT program, it's just, when you're ready, we'll bring forward, analysis of.
Yeah. Perfect.
I just have a couple things.
Yeah,
If those are the appropriate time. First of all, I just want kind of a little announcement, and then just a future agenda item. On the announcement side, I'm real pleased to say that the Vets Building Committee, myself, G. Moskowski, Al Del Cid, Bob Cox, and Tom Waller have made the decision to purchase a new commercial range for the building. We're working with Johannes to fast track this and avoid a lot of the red tape to have it installed by Myers Equipment Company out of Santa Rosa, who actually does a lot of work with the county on commercial equipment. So we'll be getting a new range in there, and we'll be turning the ownership over to the county. So I'm excited about that. And then a future agenda item. Before this meeting, I was having a cup of coffee with an old timer here in town. And he was reminiscent about the old days at City Park, when he would go to the barbecue pits and he'd sit at those picnic tables and they would all be covered with shade. And he's wondering what the possibility is to have some rather large trees planted to provide shade for that picnic grove. And I just thought I'd lay that out there for under the parks. I think we were talking about some things if that's something we wanted to think about at this point. So Hector, you probably have more knowledge.
No, I think it's great. I think it's a great idea. We lost that beautiful California bay tree there that I mean, we tried everything.
The big one that's
big
got
one.
all the braces on it.
Yeah, exactly. There was four, I think there's 4 certified arborists that looked at that tree. They just tried everything, but it was just too far gone, so we had to remove it. I agree, yeah, and then we removed another oak tree in the middle of the lawn there. And we kind of made a little bench out of it, because I didn't want to get rid of it, and but no, I agree, I think we should put some more shady trees out there. I think it's something we can budget for. And put in there, yeah, I think, I like it.
Is that something we should just keep on as a standing item, right when the end of that, David?
We can look at it, I mean, we can put it on as a new business item.
Yeah. Okay.
We can present a cost estimate and plan.
Now, he's talking about big ones, so we don't have to wait 50 years.
Yeah, oh, no,
Which one would grow pretty quick.
oh, yeah, we got some trees that grow really fast, in a couple, 2 or 3 years. That would be enough to provide some shade for sure.
Large gallon.
Yeah, you can get them in 24-inch boxes that they're roughly about, 12 to 14 feet already.
Oh,
Trees, right?
Avocados.
Orange trees.
Walnuts.
We can go clean up after.
Yeah, well, no, I agree, we got some trees that we're gonna plant at Vintage Meadows, and then a couple more trees at Chablis Park. I think there was a request too that came in a couple weeks ago. And then the dog park, we got about 20 of them going, so yeah, the more trees the better, I think.
We should leave on.
Chablis Park, the city owns a little park off the street Chablis.
Yeah,
So it's called, we would call it the Chablis Park. It's a little cul-de-sac, or a little island that goes around.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
at the end of Chablis.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so then we had a couple crab apples that didn't survive due to the snow event that we had, so we're gonna replace them.
Or ate them tomorrow.
I didn't even realize that.
No, it's all, yeah, Javier's out there mowing it right now.
What were you thinking about replacing those with?
Well, we had 2 options. One of them was they wanted an ornamental pears,
Okay.
and then the other one was an ash tree, or another possibility was that Chinese pistache.
Which is the least labor intense to maintain.
Probably like the Chinese pistache, they don't shed that much. We can almost get an evergreen tree too. I will. Yeah.
Killed us.
Yeah, the one nice thing about the Chinese pistache and the ashtray is that they have color all year round.
Yeah.
They turn really nice and red and orangey in the fall. Folks like to look at it.
At the B and B, we planted, we took a tree down, a privet bush tree. And we replaced it with a white ash.
Oh, yeah, it's a nice one.
Man, that thing grew, a
Yeah,
couple of years, that thing was huge.
yeah, the white ash is good. It's a good tree and it doesn't have a lot of aggressive roots.
Right.
Which is good. But, no, so yeah, we're into the tree planting here to try to recoup some of those trees that didn't endure the drought.
Good.
All right, anybody got anything else? Vanessa, anything? All righty, let's move to H. Mike, we're gonna adjourn the meeting at, tell you here since I put my glasses on. 3:20 PM.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Bye, guys.